Commercial Bank, Jamaica Limited, NCBJ, says it has identified and is actively addressing a technical issue affecting Uber transactions made by some customers using their Visa debit card.
Now we'll have more on
We have seen what the news has indicated about the banking system in Jamaica. We have seen a travesty that has taken place with Uber, NCB, and patrons who have been somewhat disadvantaged based on a glitch in the system. Let us talk about banking in Jamaica. Banking can be one of the most rewarding experience as an individual, especially if you are a business. Banking is where you can get all your funds into a particular account or a set of accounts where they can be monitored. The funds can be protected, and then you can redeploy that capital which you have amassed over time to invest in your personal development and in your business endeavors. But when it comes on to banking in Jamaica, it is one of the most hardest tasks that any individual has to do. First, the requirements to open a bank account appears on the outside to be pretty simple, straightforward. Yes, you just have your TRN, your NIS, a proof of identification, your address, and then you should be good to go. In some cases, you need to have a verification of referrals. But as time progresses and you have more standing in the country or in the banking sector, then the requirements become more relaxed based on a relationship that would have been formed. What I want you to know is that the banking system is designed as one that should be providing adequate financial resources so that each individual can pool funds together and redeploy where there is a need. But the system of banking in Jamaica as a whole is one that is, yes, restrictive, very much so, based on the fact that it has to try to comply with so many rules, regulations, laws, and governance structure. And it is somewhat a challenge for the average person to get things done, and it wastes a lot of persons' time, and it wastes what could have been allocated to the GDP of the country, the gross domestic product output. So we are realizing that banks are necessary, yes, but they are entities which has their restriction and their limitations. And right now, in the system that exists, we have a gap in 2024, 2025. There is a gap in the banking sector for a banking system that is smooth, fast, safe, and efficient. Though we have different banks that exist, we have the Central Bank, the BOJ, Bank of Jamaica, which is primarily a regulatory bank for Jamaican system. It is mainly responsible for managing monetary policies, maintaining exchange rate stability, and ensuring financial system stability. The BOJ also oversees the licensing, the supervision, and the regulation of financial institutions in the country. But I want you to know that the Bank of Jamaica is not a Jamaican bank per se. The Bank of Jamaica is actually the British bank that Jamaica has been extended the courtesy of utilizing. What is it that we're saying? Just as how the Queen has control over Jamaica, and the representative here is the Governor General, I want you to think about the Bank of Jamaica as such a representative. So the Bank of Jamaica is not a Jamaican entity. It is owned, operated, and managed by the Queen or the monarchy. Yes. But in the local sphere, it gives licensure, it gives supervision to what is taking place. It does play an important role, especially when it comes on to stability of the dollar. You know, when you have exchange rates and all those kind of fluctuation, and that impacts the buying and selling of goods and services, especially if you have to export or if you are importing. Things can become more expensive or things can become cheaper. So if things are cheaper to import, then you'll have a lot of low value items flooding the market. When things are more expensive to export, we'll utilize more what we have in our country and try to diversify from there. So they basically set those parameters in place so that the average person doesn't have to worry about the finer details. They just operate and fall in line with the system. Then we have another type of bank that exists in Jamaica, which involves a commercial bank. And these are main providers of personal and business services. They also offer services like savings, checking account, loans, mortgage, investment products. Major commercial banks that you should know are or includes NCB. NCB is the Jamaican bank, National Commercial Bank. It is branded Jamaica, yes. That bank there has been around since a long time. And then we have Scotiabank, Scotia Jamaica. We have First Caribbean International Bank. We have Sagicor Bank. All right. So I want you to understand that as we're here on the commercial banking sector, there are two accounts I want you to understand that exist. You have the checking account and you have the savings account. The savings account is basically the account that you take and you put your money that you want to keep for an event, you want to keep for an occurrence that is in the future. All right? You want cash or liquidity. In your checking account, what happens is that you are going to get your pay from whatever entity they pay you, and right after they pay you, what I want you to do is have an instant transfer into your savings account. Once you do that, you will somewhat put a barrier so that if someone tries to access money from your checking account, they cannot access because there's no funds available. All right, so you put that money in a savings account, maybe in the same bank, in a different section. All right, so with the restrictions that are placed and the difficulty, the authentications, even with those systems in place, people are still able to breach the system. And because they have so many different systems and different levels to overcome, it makes it what should be a little bit more difficult is a little easier for the persons with nefarious intentions to go into people's accounts and take what they desire. But what I want you to understand is that if you have a savings account or a checking account, those are good accounts to have, but there are other accounts that the bank is going to try to introduce you to, like the loan accounts, the mortgage accounts. All right, and few banks try to introduce you to the investment products or the investment account, and these are the accounts that you actually need to know about in order to get your money working for you. So the bank is a dealer and they sell products, and some of the products that the banks sell includes the savings account, the checking account, the loan, the mortgages, and the investment products, yes, because they get to charge you fees. And most banks, they are not doing what they used to do before in order to get money or revenue. What they do, they increase their fees, their service charges, they cut out the ease of interacting with humans while you go to the bank. So you have a challenge in how you navigate the financial infrastructure. But as it comes down to Jamaica, you don't have to worry about that too much. I do bank in Jamaica. Two major banks that I utilize include the National Commercial Bank and the Scotia Bank. There are other banks that you can use, and it's up to you. I also utilize Jamaica National from time to time because my family has ties with that banking institution. But personally, I keep all my accounts that are not currently actively engaged in transferring money to someone at a zero balance. So if I need X millions of dollars, I generate that, I get it in the bank, and I distribute it like that. But I keep my money where I can actually see it. Yeah, and that there is how many persons operate. The money you have in the bank is for a purpose of deployment to do a particular task or activity. So, yes, if at any given time you look at my bank account, in any bank that I have, it is $0. And this is not by accident or chance. I had an awful experience with one of my favorite banks, Scotiabank. I had a couple mills in the bank that is not necessarily mine, but it was given as a gift. And over time, while I was away in another country doing international studies, doing the best to come back to my country, I realized that upon return, the amount I started with, the interest that should have occurred, did not happen. So what happened is that my account was almost cut down in half, which was almost mind boggling to me. And that there caused me to be apprehensive in keeping my finances in the bank because I learned my lesson. But I've had good experiences with different banking sectors and different banks. I have had pleasant experience with Scotia because Scotia Bank was one of the first banks that respected me as an individual to offer me a credit line exceeding $1 million. So yes, Scotia, I have to put my hats off to you for doing that. But it's just that the fees sometimes can eat up the money and it does not balance out with inflation. So in some instances, you're losing money while in other instances you're put at in a disadvantaged state. So these banks exist, and if you like any bank for a particular reason, then you go to that bank. And Jamaica is so designed that all the banks are basically interconnected. So if you have information in one bank, that bank shares that information with the other banks. So everything is basically interconnected. And I would suggest that you have multiple bank accounts because sometimes your banks may respond to you unfavorably, or your banks may do things which are conflicting, and you cannot deal with a long wait time, so you can just move to another bank. So that there is something that does exist. Then we have the credit unions, and credit unions are popular among Jamaicans and offer many banking services similar to commercial banks, which often focus on benefits and low fees. We have a bank that many persons may not even know exists, and it's Development Bank. And these banks, like the Development Bank of Jamaica, provides financial or for financing for the development of projects, especially in agriculture. So if you're a farmer, you'll know about this bank. If you have a small business, you'll know about this bank. And different industries. Then you have the Merchant and Investment Bank. These is where the big boys reside. So the institutional investors, they provide corporate banking services like investment options and specialized financial products, primarily to large businesses and different institutions. But though those are structures that exist, there is also the digitalization and mobile banking that is creeping into the Jamaican society. And these banks that we are talking about are bank entities. You may have heard about it, the CBDs or the central bank digital currency. So we have in Jamaica the Jamdex, which is basically trying to streamline a digital economy in which there is total control, in which there's a central banking. So there's a ledger for every single dollar that comes in your bank account. They know where it came from, who it came from, what they did to get it. So they know everything about the activities of the money. And this is just in a bid to be able to control and to regulate, in being compliant with anti-money laundering acts or policies, and also the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force regulations, right? So foreign exchange and remittance exists in Jamaica, and this is where you have X amount of money from a particular country like the United States, and you take it to Jamaica and you want to exchange it. So you can remit this money, or you can exchange it at the spread rate. So depending on the rate of the market at a particular time, you may have those remittance services available for you. And this is also controlled by the Bank of Jamaica. And when we talk about remittance, we are also talking about money that comes from another country into the country, that there is remittance. All right, so people sending money from another country into your country, and that there is basically how the country gets to get some taxation, and also how the country gets to benefit, whether adversely or otherwise, from the change in market volatility. Interest rates and loan accessibility exists, but it is difficult to get a good interest rate, especially if you are not at a particular tier. But the Bank of Jamaica tried to regulate the interest rate. So what you see on the board is what the average person may pay. But for elite customers, customers that don't have to wait in a line, customers that make a phone call and get an invitation to come to the bank at a particular time and transact their business in a closed room, then leave through the back door, those customers don't get the same interest rate that you get that are published to the general public. They have a lower interest rate. And depending on your profession, I learned this, depending on your profession, you also get different interest rates. So all of you could be in health. If you are a MD, physician, if you are in a certain category, your interest rate is lower than the average person. And the more money you have, the better your interest rates are, and the better your loan accessibility is. So the banks reward you to a degree, but they punish you, especially if you are marginalized, because that there is where they get the majority of their resources from, in terms of the working class people are the persons who fund the lifestyle of the financiers, the bankers, all the insurance agents. You are the ones who are funding those lifestyle. And I have some questions and concerns about some of the practices, but that is for another time as we speak about Jamaica. But Jamaica has different challenges, but I want to let you know that despite all of these regulations and the difficulty in getting money from one bank account and the restrictions placed on how much money you can get at a particular time, Jamaica still has a robust banking sector. And I like the Jamaican banking structure to a degree, but it is the friction that exists in terms of getting your money moving fast enough. That there is what I have the biggest challenge with. And the challenge of having to verify identification, and the challenges of opening an account. You have to be physically that's just ridiculous and bonkers to me, because when I travel internationally, or I have different international accounts, majority 99% that I can, the only time I have ever recall going into a bank to open a bank account was once when I was a minor, when I was traveling internationally. I have opened bank accounts in different countries without even setting foot in the bank. So to have to go into the bank, to have to file paperwork manually, to have to, these things we need to move a little faster as we expedite these matters. And I'm hoping that the connectivity of the different infrastructure can enable the banking sector for us to develop our financial arsenal to be one of the world's premier. But Jamaica is a safe place to store your money in the physical, and I'm going to explain that in another sitting. How do you store your money in the physical and not necessarily in the paper? So you must be, when you're in Jamaica, you have to be able to see your money, feel your money, smell your money, taste your money, but not necessarily have that money. And you will understand exactly, because if you can see it, they can't see it. Nobody can take it away. Nobody can actually tax it away from you. But that is a high level conversation that we have to have about Jamaica banking system. But Jamaica banking system is phenomenal, nevertheless. But is the bank for you? I believe that every individual, despite the challenges, should have a bank account. And yes, having a bank account may be advantageous to some, may be disadvantageous to others, but there are more benefits than downside. Yes, the government can put a freeze on your account, and the banks can even lock you out of your own account. They can investigate frauds on your account and put you at a disadvantage. That is why you need more than one bank account. This brings us to the point of what happened with NCB and the Uber situation. There was a glitch in the matrix, or sorry, there was a glitch in the NCB system, which NCB has indicated that they have identified this glitch, but the customers have to pay for the inconvenience of the system not responding in a timely manner. So I want you to know as individuals that the banking system is designed for profit. All right? And each transaction is profitable. The bank has to do risk management, which means that they don't want to lose any money. So as best as possible, because you have given them power to add money to your account, to take money from your account, guess what's going to happen? They are going to be doing whatever it is that they can do to ensure that they secure their bottom line, whether it is in your best interest or not. What you need to do is to position yourself in such a way that you can safeguard yourself against these ills. So what I would encourage people, if you're going to use Uber, Lyft, and all those kind of services, try to use a credit card. Not one of those credit cards that is tied directly to your debit card, but a credit card that is somewhat independent of your debit card. Because if there are fraudulent charges that take place, you can always call the banks, and the banks will have those charges frozen and then reimbursed. If it's your debit card, then that is your money, so that there takes a longer time. If it's a credit card, it's faster, and your account is not really frozen in totality, because once an investigation is going on, they will freeze the account for security reasons, all right? Because they don't want the money to be spent or squandered or whatever to take place. But for those who are using Uber and Lyft, you have to be vigilant. You have to be diligent in your execution of those requests. Do you really need to spend $1 million to move from point A to point B in 1 month? Why didn't just buy a Pro Box? Why didn't get a Tata? Why didn't just get a second-hand new brand vehicle or something and license, register it, insure it? You would have change remaining. But everybody has to do what is in their best interest. Until next time, sign out from RoadTripja. the heartbeat of Jamaica's road, is Dr. A. Walk, ride, drive, and fly good. Until next.
If I was to tell you what so much I need you, would you come tonight?
Yo, shut your mouth with a little bit of money. Shut up. Life is sweet, let me dip it in a honey.
Every Jamaican need to have at least 3 accounts in terms of having 3 different types of bank accounts. And those bank accounts that we're going to be discussing are the savings account, your checking account, and your investment account. Yes. So those 3 accounts are the main accounts that every well-thinking individual who cares about their financial future should have. I'm going to walk you through the steps of how you can use these accounts for your best interests. So the idea that saving will make you rich or wealthy is a lie. Saving will never make you rich. Putting money in an account, considering for inflation and the devaluation of the dollar, as time elapses, that is theta, what is happening is that what you had before is worth less. So you had $1 million in 2020. That $1 million may be equated to or equivalent to $600,000 because inflation would have eaten out the value of that money. So if you decide that you want to work for 50 years and save to reach $1 billion, when you reach 50, that $1 billion that you would have had when you just started saving and the $1 billion that you would have at the end of that 50 years of saving will not be the same. So the idea that you have money in an account is going to make you rich is a fallacy, and that is where the investment account comes in handy. So your checking account is the first account that I want us to consider, because before you can have a balance in your finances, you need to have money coming in, and your investment account will be the vehicle that is used to multiply the money that comes in. So when you work for your employer as an employee, or if you do a hustle, whether you sell bag juice, whether you're a taxi operator, whether you are a peddler, whether you are an entrepreneur of whatever magnitude, whatever it is that you do, you need to have money coming in. In order for the money to come in, you need an account. So you need to have a bank account or some account to receive money. There is no sense in doing business or having an interaction with someone if you cannot collect the money. So you need an account, you need a vehicle to get the money in a safe place, right? Or a relatively safe place. So you are going to need to have a bank account set up, and we're going to go through how you can go about setting up a bank account in the future. But for now, let us just discuss these accounts. So the money coming in, that goes into your checking account. So it is for checking purposes. So the money that you make goes into your checking account. Good. So while it is in your checking account, the next step you want to do is to move that money into a savings account for safekeeping, because the checking account is the account that you will draw on to pay bills. So you want that account to be at zero at all times as best as possible. So as money comes into it, you take it out and put it into your savings section of your account. And the reason we are doing this is to protect ourselves, or to put up a wall of protection, so that when those persons with nefarious intention try to scam us or try to exploit our account, when they enter the checking account section, they will get $0. But you have to be vigilant in how you structure your accounts so that you can have these safeguards in place. So the savings account is just a holding account, because remember, saving will not get you rich and saving will not get you wealthy. Savings is just to hold the money so that you, before it is deployed into the checking account. So if you have the light bill, you have the water bill for the whatever properties that you have to pay, you have the mortgage that you have to pay, then you move the money that is equivocal to the amount that is needed to pay or to service those debt instrument or those bill obligations. So you're going to move the money from the savings account into the checking account, and then you're going to pay from that. So for those person with credit cards and other loan facilities, then you pay from that account, and you only put enough money to clear those balances. You don't want a situation where you have less than, because that is going to put you into a situation of an overdraft. And when you have overdraft on your account, then it means that you're not able to meet your financial obligation, and then that there becomes a red flag for the financial institution. So your savings account is just a holding account for the money that you have, to prevent it from being misused or misappropriated by external entities who may want to breach your account. So we have that out of the way. Now, the investment account is the account that you are going to use to actually get your money working or moving in multiplying, because the word of God says be fruitful and multiply. It doesn't only mean to be fruitful in relation to having a lot of children. It meant being fruitful in having the common sense to multiply whatever resources that we have. And when we are multiplying the resources, we have to be strategic. So we are going to move that money from our savings section of our account into our investment account. And the investment account is where we'll have our investment portfolio. And this is where we have the money making opportunities. We can invest in stock, bonds, mutual funds, commodities, and all the likes, which would give us some interest on the funds that we currently have or house in our banking facility, because the interest rate on your savings account is negligible. So inflation is going to eat that interest rate out, and then you're going to have to pay on top of that. So basically you are losing more money having your money in your savings account. All right, so you have to be mindful as to how you're going to be moving your money around, especially if you want to maximize the resources that you have. So when we talk about the investment account now, there are many different options that are available for an individual to invest in, and it is often said that it is good to get a financial advisor to advise you as to how to invest your resources. But I believe that each individual should be their own financial advisor. You have worked hard for your money, so you need to be advising yourself or getting the information so that you can advise yourself in managing and multiplying your money. I'm going to share this with you, that majority of the financial advisors are not in a position to get a better return than just putting your money in international index funds. Majority of them are not skilled enough to get a better return than that. So if that is the kind of return, 10 to 15% return they're going to give you, there is no need for them or their services, because the stock market in the US can give you that. The Jamaican stock market can give you that independently of having them. If they are not telling you they can give you 50% or more, I don't think you need them. And I don't think that a person who has less than $1 billion need to have a financial manager as well. So if you have a $250,000, $1 million, even $100 million, you really can manage that money by yourself. It is not rocket science, and if they complicate it, it means that they don't really understand it. And when they present to you the idea of derivatives and all these kind of fancy instruments, you have to be mindful to see, are they making money off your money and then giving you the residue, or are they putting you in a position where they are making you wealthy? I want you to understand that the financial advisor, the financial liaison that you may have, is in the business actually of actually trying to get you to give them your money so as they can make money for themselves and then give you the residue or the residual for the courtesy of allowing them to have your money. So you have to know what it is that your strengths are and your weaknesses are as to how you go about investing, especially when you're in the Jamaican arena. We have seen many travesties that have taken place with Oland, Finsac, and all these investment cash plus, and the banks were a part of the whole scheme of things. They were the ones who allowed certain malpractices to take place, and I don't want anyone to have to lose money. But if you are going to try to multiply your money, you have to know that there is a risk of a total loss of the money. But I think that it is better that you lose your money than to have someone else lose your money on your behalf. That's just how I look at it. You work so hard for the money, so better you are the one who lose the money. But you don't have to lose the money. If you have the right financial information, then you can position yourself, and not only yourself, but position your family so that they can manage the resources that you will amass and you will transfer to them. And while you're in the Jamaican diaspora, the Jamaican arena, or wherever you are in the world, the principles remain the same. Always remember, there are 3 accounts that you need, especially if you're in Jamaica. You need a savings account, you need a checking account, and you need an investment account. The savings account is the holding account. The checking account is a depository account, and the investment account is the account that multiplies. Thanks for spending some time with us on RoadTripja, the heartbeat of Jamaica's road. This is Dr. 8. As we always say, walk, ride, drive, and fly good. Until next time.